Gary, Indiana, 1963. A cramped house bursting with music and dreams. 5-year-old Michael Jackson stood before his brothers, watching their feet, their hands, their faces. He absorbed everything like a sponge thrown into the ocean. When his father Joe lined them up for practice, the other brothers groaned. Michael smiled. Music wasn't work to him. It was air. It was language. It was the only place where everything made sense. His voice carried something unexplainable, something that made grown men cry and women clutch their hearts. By age 11, he was leading the Jackson 5 to the top of the charts, his small body channeling emotions he hadn't yet lived. He became America's little prince, the boy with the impossible voice and the infectious joy. But fame is a hungry animal, and Michael was its youngest meal. The world saw a talented child. Michael saw expectations building like walls around him. Every smile had to be perfect. Every dance move had to dazzle. Every song had to touch heaven. He gave them everything, and they screamed for more. His childhood dissolved into recording studios and tour buses. While other kids played baseball, Michael rehearsed. While they scraped knees and learned to fail privately, Michael's mistakes became headlines. He looked in the mirror and saw what the world demanded, perfection wrapped in sequins. The real Michael, the boy who loved climbing trees and drawing cartoons, began to fade. He was becoming something else entirely, something shaped by a million hands, none of them his own. The stage lights were warm, but they burned. The applause was sweet, but it deafened. And deep in his chest, a small voice whispered a question he couldn't yet answer. Who am I when the music stops? The transformation was complete by the 1980s. Michael Jackson wasn't just famous, he was a phenomenon that defied explanation. Thriller didn't just top charts, it rewrote what was possible in music. The moonwalk wasn't just a dance move, it was magic witnessed by millions. He moved like gravity forgot him. He sang like pain and joy were the same emotion. Critics ran out of superlatives. Fans fainted at the sight of him. He became the king of pop, a title that felt like both a crown and a cage. Every album had to outsell the last. Every performance had to be more spectacular. The pressure didn't just build, it metastasized. Michael responded the only way he knew how, by giving everything, then somehow finding more to give. But success at this level cost something that can never be repaid. Michael's face became the most recognizable on earth, which meant privacy became extinct. Paparazzi followed him like flies on honey. Tabloids invented stories when the truth wasn't sensational enough. He couldn't walk down a street, couldn't eat in a restaurant, couldn't exist as a normal human being. So he built Neverland Ranch, a sprawling fantasy world with amusement park rides and exotic animals. People mocked it, called it strange, called him weird. They didn't understand that Michael was trying to construct the childhood that had been stolen from him. He filled it with laughter and wonder, but he walked its paths mostly alone. Fame had given him the world, but it had taken away the simple gift of being anonymous, of being ordinary, of being human. The more people loved his image, the more isolated his true self became. He was surrounded by millions yet connected to almost no one. That Michael's appearance changed, and the world erupted into cruel speculation. His skin grew lighter due to vitiligo, a condition that destroys pigment, but tabloids screamed that he was trying to become white, that he hated himself, that he was mentally unstable. His surgeries were scrutinized, mocked, turned into punchlines on late-night television. What the cameras captured was a man whose physical transformation mirrored his inner fragmentation. Every change became ammunition for a public that had loved him as a child but seemed determined to destroy him as an adult. The boy who once radiated pure joy now looked haunted, skeletal, as if the weight of judgment was literally consuming him from the inside out. Michael tried to explain, but explanations couldn't compete with sensational headlines. The media had discovered something profitable, tearing down the icon they'd built. They picked apart his friendships, his choices, his voice, which had grown softer and higher over the years. They questioned his relationships, his lifestyle, everything that didn't fit their narrow definition of normal. But Michael had never been normal. Genius rarely is. He saw the world through a different lens, one colored by creativity and compassion. He built burn units for children, donated millions to charity, visited sick kids in hospitals without cameras following. These acts of kindness were footnoted while his eccentricities became headline news. The narrative shifted from celebration to ridicule, from admiration to suspicion. The cruelty accelerated when accusations emerged that would haunt him until his final breath. Whether innocent or guilty, Michael became a target for a society that devours its heroes with the same enthusiasm it creates them. The trials, the allegations, the constant defense against darkness, It all took pieces of him that could never be recovered. He grew more reclusive, more guarded, more desperate to control a story that had spun completely out of his hands. The stage was still his sanctuary, the one place where he could transform pain into beauty, where he could still be understood. Despite everything threatening to crush him, Michael never stopped creating. His music became more introspective, more raw. Albums like History and Invincible carried the weight of a man fighting to be heard beneath the noise of scandal. Songs like Stranger in Moscow and Childhood weren't just tracks, they were confessions, desperate attempts to make people see beyond the caricature. His lyrics spoke of loneliness, of being misunderstood, of wanting nothing more than to be loved for who he truly was. But the world had already decided what Michael Jackson meant, and they weren't interested in revisions. They wanted the moonwalking prince, not the wounded artist. They wanted entertainment, not truth. Michael poured his anguish into his art because art was the only language that had never betrayed him. On stage, he could still command absolute authority. His concerts became religious experiences where 50,000 people moved as one, connected by his voice, his movement, his undeniable presence. For those 2 hours, he was infinite. For those 2 hours, the accusations and mockery dissolved into pure transcendence. He gave performances that left him physically shattered, dancing until his body screamed for mercy because performing was the only time he felt truly alive, truly valued, truly free. His dedication to his craft bordered on obsessive, but perfection was his only defense against a world determined to find him lacking. Behind the scenes, his health deteriorated. Insomnia tormented him. The pain from years of intense dancing required stronger and stronger medication. His body, pushed beyond human limits for decades, was breaking down. Friends watched helplessly as prescriptions multiplied, as doctors became enablers, as Michael slipped further into chemical dependency trying to find rest that wouldn't come naturally. Yet even in this decline, his generosity persisted. He still wrote checks to charities, still dreamed of global healing through music, still believed that love could conquer the darkness that had infected his life. That purity of vision, that stubborn hope in humanity despite everything humanity had done to him, defined Michael Jackson more than any scandal ever could. June 25, 2009. The news broke like thunder across the planet. Michael Jackson was dead at 50. The same media that had tormented him for decades suddenly pivoted to grief, to tribute, to recognition of his genius. The irony was suffocating. In death, he was granted the compassion that had been withheld in life. Millions mourned worldwide, gathering in spontaneous memorials, playing his music in streets and homes, finally understanding what they'd lost. The sales numbers exploded as people rushed to reconnect with an artist they'd taken for granted or wrongly judged. Thriller climbed the charts again. His concerts footage trended online. The world wept for Michael Jackson, but the tears came too late to save him from the loneliness that had consumed him alive. His final months had been spent preparing for the This Is It comeback tour, a chance to prove he was still the king, still magical, still relevant. Footage from rehearsals showed a man who could still command a stage even as his body betrayed him. He was thin, fragile, running on determination and pharmaceutical assistance. Those closest to him saw the warning signs but felt powerless against the machinery of the industry, against Michael's own desperate need to perform, against the financial pressures that demanded he deliver one last time. When his heart finally stopped, pumped full of propofol by a doctor who should have known better, it felt inevitable and tragic in equal measure. The boy who had given everything had nothing left to give. Michael Jackson's legacy is complicated, messy, human. He was a genius who revolutionized music, dance, and visual storytelling. He was also a broken man, damaged by early fame, crushed by inhuman expectations, and persecuted by a culture that builds pedestals just to watch people fall from them. His story asks uncomfortable questions about what we demand from our idols and what responsibility we bear when they crumble under the weight of our worship. He wanted to heal the world but couldn't heal himself. He preached love but died lonely. He created joy for billions while drowning in sorrow. Perhaps Michael Jackson was exactly what the title suggests. Too pure, too sensitive, too idealistic for a world that feeds on scandal and spectacle. His music remains, timeless and untouchable, but the man behind it serves as a haunting reminder that fame's appetite is insatiable, and purity rarely survives when the whole world is watching.